investigation to be done into the affairs of the CDSO in the period under review, you would require a considerable capacity to complete the work, and I'm talking about person power. You would require unlimited access to classified documents, and you would require the cooperation of persons and perhaps the opportunity to compel persons from the lowest operative level or the operative level right through to the most senior personnel, including ministers. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
In your investigation, did you have powers of compulsion?
No. We don't have any powers of compulsion.
Good. Oh, I mean, not good. I understand. If we can go then, please, back to the statement of Mr. Y. At paragraph 6.16, there reference is made to additional invoices submitted under Project Construção by external companies, here pseudonyms Napa and Squash, who provided invoices totaling at least over 24 million rand for service, for quote, services rendered, unquote. Am I correct?
Yes.
Again, did these invoices, to your recollection, to your knowledge, adequately reflect the nature of the services rendered and work done to enable proper controls to be implemented?
No. In fact, the invoices looked at face value. When we looked at them, when we analyzed them, it's the same paper, and both invoices from the different companies basically said to two individuals. Yeah, and then that would just be the proof, the invoice and the acknowledgement of receipt of cash would be what is attached to the TA.
So that will be the sum total of, or not the sum total, that would be the documentation which would be used to justify, firstly, payment and secondly, receipt of cash. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right. If we can go then to paragraph 6.17, reads, in December 2016, a submission was compiled to request the DG, then Mr. Arthur Fraser, to waive the advertising and appointment processes in respect of 33 people attached to Project Construção. This submission is contained in file 2 of SSA bundle and is marked, or as is marked as Annexure C12. I just want to look at it, if you would give me a moment, Ms. Kay, to see if it's necessary to place it before the Chair. I think it's important to summarize below, and if you have a need to look at the document to support what is said below, please just say so, Ms. Kay. It reads, the urgency of the proposed waiver was motivated on the basis that the project would soon end, as it had been decided by the principal client and the SSA executive to call for a termination of the project when the term allocated expires at the end of March 2017. So it seems that certain work had to be done on an urgent basis because the project was about to come to an end. Do I understand you correctly?
Yes.
There's reference there to the principal client. I don't want to ask you who that client was, but is that client an individual or an institution? Or do you know?
I don't know. I don't know who they were referring to.
All right.
In this regard, I don't, yeah.
Perhaps we can get other evidence to that effect. The
No.
paragraph continues, however, Project Construção was extended several times after the cover support unit took over operational expenses for the project in September 2017. And final payments to the remaining co-workers were only made in September 2018. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. Let's go on to deal with Project Maibuye. As I understand it, and it appears from what is set out below, Project Maibuye was a collective name for several projects. Am I correct?
It was a project with operations falling within that project.
Okay. 6.18 says, Project Maibuye was initiated by Mr. Tulani Dlomo and was initially approved by Ambassador Kujo in January 2015, at the same time as other CDSO projects were approved. This submission for the establishment of Project Maibuye is contained in the SSA bundle and is marked Annexure MO. It was renewed and continued after the departure of Ambassador Kujo and the subsequent arrival of Mr. Fraser as DG in September 2016. Is that correct?
Yes.
Paragraph 6.19 quotes from the motivation for the establishment of the project and says, according to the motivation put forward in seeking approval for the Project Maibuye, it was established, quote, to provide counterintelligence support that will enable to step up state authority and its organs of governance, brackets justice, parliament, provincial legislatures, close brackets, against hostile behavior or radical intents aimed at undermining the rule of law and governance in general. Minister Mahlobo continuously approved the utilization of retained earnings to fund these operations, despite advice that the retained earnings, brackets unexpended funds, close bracket, should be saved and utilized for infrastructure development to develop the intelligence capabilities of the SSA. Leave aside the sentence that I've just read about the use of retained earnings, but can you confirm that the motivation was couched in the terms you've set out, or sorry, not you've set out, that Mr. Y set out in paragraph 6.19?
I can't confirm
All right.
the
Well,
motivation.
it's there in annexure.
But because it's quoted, I'm assuming it comes from the original documents.
Yes, it does, and
Because it's a quotation, so I can't oppose that.
right, it's there for anyone to check.
Yes, and then the part of the approval of the utilization of retained earnings, I agree with that. We've seen the documentation. I am not sure about the advice that it should be saved and utilized. I don't have any evidence that shows anyone giving advice. So, yeah, that's where I would end it.
Paragraph 6.20 reads, in a submission dated 31 May 2016, authorization was given for the renewal of Project Maibuye and payment of related expenditure between 1 April 2016 and 31 March 2017, approving the budget of 54.1 million. This submission for renewal and further funding of Project Maibuye is contained in the SSA bundle as Annexure M25. I'm not going to go to either of those documents for the moment. They may become relevant later. But let's go to paragraph 6.21. It reads, by way of example as to how operational funds would be withdrawn for Project Maibuye, this approval is attached as support for a temporary advance dated 30 June 2016 for 4.4 million, with the accompanying certificates bearing the signature of those who took receipt of the cash for various operations under Project Maibuye. This TA, or temporary advance, is included in file 2 of bundle SS of the SSA bundle and is marked as annexure M15. Let's just have a look at that if we may.
Yeah. M15.
M15 is at page 453 of SSA 1.
453.
3.
Yes, I'm there. I've got it, Chair.
Right.
Yes, you can go ahead.
If you just bear with me a moment, Ms. Kay. If you could go then to page 458.
Page
458.
458, okay. Yes.
Well, perhaps we should, a lot of that is illegible. Perhaps we should go to the certificate of receiving cash on page 464. That is the type of document that Mr. Jafta referred to as raising concern. 453 and 454 are certificates of receiving cash. Do you see that?
Yes.
So
Yes.
let's look at the invoice which gave rise to that. It is on page
Yes.
462 of SSA 1. You see that?
Just repeat
Yes.
the page, Mr. Pretorius.
Sorry.
Just repeat the page number.
Page 462, SSA 1.
Yes.
It says in an invoice, professional fees as per the approved contract. That's a piece of evidence that you've just given. Quantity 1,
Yes.
Unit price 4.4 million rand, amount 4.4 million rand. You see that?
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
all that is said. And then in relation to the receipt of cash, there are several certificates.
Yes.
But each of them says underneath the head, reasons for giving cash, Project Maibuye, Ops Justice is one of them at 464. Do you see that? For 1.4 million.
Yes. Yes, I see that.
And over the page, 1.4 million again. All that is said is Ops Justice as the reason for giving cash. Do you see that?
Yes, and Maibuye in brackets.
Yes, Maibuye in brackets.
Yes.
That again, by way of example, you've made the general conclusions in relation to documents of that nature, and as has as DG Jafta. Paragraph 6.22 says, based on the TAs, that's the temporary advances, which have been located during our investigation, the total paid in respect of Project Maibuye amounts to 84.79 million rand. This includes 8 invoices totaling 38.88 million, which were submitted by an unnamed company, and 1 invoice for 6.9 million rand submitted by another company or service provider. Is that what the investigation came to find?
Yes.
And that is based on what you could locate, is that correct?
Yes.
Is it necessarily the full amount?
I don't think so, sir. I don't think so.
And then if one goes to 6.23, it reads, Project Maibuye comprised several operations, including Operation Commitment, Operation Justice Stroke Simunya, Operation Lock and Operation Cece Corner, which are detailed separately below. Reference is also made in submissions for Project Maibuye to Operation Safe Return and Operational Platinum, but little is known about these operations. Do you have any comment on that general statement?
Yes. I do agree with the paragraph as it stands.
All right. Let's deal then with Operation Commitment, which is an operation, as you said, under Project Maibuye. 6.24 reads, Operation Commitment involved monthly withdrawals of cash by, among others, Frank, Daryl, and Dorothy. Those are all pseudonyms, which were delivered on more than one occasion.
I'm sorry, Mr. Pretorius. Should there be an amendment here?
Yes, there will have to be. And that will be made in due course as soon as we can.
Wherever it uses the pseudonym of Sharon, it
No. Yes, that you can ignore that name, not involved.
Okay.
But there will, I'm sorry, I should have made it clear before getting to that paragraph that after discussions with a particular council, a particular name, I hope I'm being vague enough.
That's fine. Just important that I want to see if whether I have the same document as you have.
Yes.
So when you read something that's different from what I have, that's why I want to check.
I will alert you to it beforehand.
Okay.
It reads, Operation Commitment involved monthly withdrawals of cash by, among others, Frank, Daryl, and Dorothy, which were delivered on more than one occasion to the Minister during the period when Mr. Mhlobo was Minister of State Security. Do you know of that? Can you confirm that?
Yes. Yes, I can.
The paragraph continues, the allegation made to the investigation team was that these funds were intended for onward delivery by Minister Mhlobo to President Zuma. Can you confirm that that is what you learnt in the investigation, or were told it?
Yes, that's what we were told.
In his interview with our investigation team, Frank confirmed that he dropped off monthly withdrawals of 2.5 million rand to Minister Mhlobo's office under Operation Commitment, and indicated he had heard that these payments were going to, quote, the project of the president, unquote, but could not confirm that this was indeed the case. It should be noted that the Project Vesa investigation team has not found any proof that President Zuma in fact received these payments, nor is there any acknowledgement of such receipt by him. Is that the correct position?
Yes, that is correct.
Did you happen to ask Minister Mashlobo about these allegations?
There was an intent to ask when he was still Member of Parliament, before he was appointed Deputy Minister at Water Affairs. We were engaging with former Minister Letsatsi Duba's office, and we crafted letters with certain questions, and we asked that via the Minister's office, these be disseminated, because it was not just him, it also included another former minister and other senior officials that had left the organization. Now, we thought the
well,
ministry
perhaps we shouldn't go any further than that, because we are dealing with a specific individual. So let me not take that any further. All we know is that the investigation team made an effort. Evidence regarding the conduct of Minister Mashlobo will be dealt with elsewhere. Hopefully we will have an opportunity to speak to him. So is that okay?
I get that, but I have to point out that ultimately the letter was delivered back to the team to be delivered to Minister Mashlobo. And when he was contacted, he actually scolded a member of the team and said, the member of the team must tell the former minister that he will expose her.
All right,
that's where it ended.
Yes, let's leave that there for the moment, Ms. Kay, if we may. Paragraph 6.25, well, let me put it this way. Leave Minister Mashlobo out of the equation for the moment.
Yes.
Has the investigation team attempted to investigate fully, by reference to all implicated and concerned, whether these amounts actually reached President Zuma, as appears to have been intended by the project?
We didn't have the capacity to investigate fully. When we hear allegations and we see that people, in terms of the TAs, the financial system, we can see that people withdrew money for that project. And they indicate that we delivered it wherever. We didn't get an opportunity to, had we engaged him, I think we would have tried to, that was our effort to try and establish if indeed he did receive, and whether, because we're gonna put these allegations to him.
Right. So what you know is that an operation was conceived. The operation involved the withdrawals of cash on a monthly basis. You were told that these amounts were delivered, or amounts were delivered on more than one occasion to Minister Mashlobo, and you cannot take it any further insofar as your investigations have gone, despite an effort to investigate further.
Yes.
Is that a fair summary?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Paragraph 6.25 reads, according to Lily, these monthly payments amounted to, and Lily is a pseudonym, these monthly payments amounted to about 24 million rand in the 2015-16 financial year, and increased to 54.1 million rand in the 2016-2017 year. Is that what Lily informed the investigation team?
That's what I'm told, Chair. I have never met Lily, and by the time the VESA team started, I think she was interviewed and submitted a statement before I joined the team.
Right. The next sentence reads, Frank, also a pseudonym, reported that he received firm instructions from Minister Mahlobo that these amounts must be made available, notwithstanding challenges in accessing these funds. Is that what Frank reported to the investigation?
Yes.
Let's deal with the next operation, Operation Justice in Simunya. 6.26 reads, Operation Justice concerned the alleged influencing, recruiting and handling of sources within the judiciary. We've learnt from previous evidence that sources there meant members of the judiciary. Am I correct?
Yes.
The second sentence reads, the purported aim was to ensure harmony between the state and the justice fraternity and allegedly included efforts to influence the outcome of cases. Was that what the investigation was told or established?
That's what we were told. That's why we say purported aim. I can't remember whether we were told, we asked questions, we sent written questions to certain individuals, and that's the response that we got. And apart from that, I think it will also be addressed in 6.27.
Did you ask these questions of persons involved in execution of the project?
Yes, specifically those who had taken TAs for Maibuye, because in Maibuye you had all of these operations. So we had to pose that question in writing, and we got written responses where before we even had a face-to-face interview with some. So that was, we did get written responses that were explaining what this was about.
Right.
From certain implicated individuals.
These written responses, the documentary evidence and the recorded oral evidence are a matter of record. Is that correct?
Yes.
Paragraph 6.27 reads, from a submission dated 20 July 2015, requesting authorization for the renewal and funding of Project Maibuye, it appears that Operation Justice was the continuation of an earlier project called Simunya. Is that correct?
Yes.
This submission is included in File 2 of the SSA bundle and is marked as Annexure M4. File 2 is the subdivision, Chair. I hope your file has been subdivided into the 3 files.
Yes.
But SSA1 is the file that we need to look at for Annexure M4.
Page?
Let me get it for you. Hold on, please.
Mr. Pretorius, did you say my file has already been subdivided?
It hasn't. Well, I can't say.
No, it's fine if it hasn't. I just wanted to make sure that I had you correctly because I didn't think it has been subdivided.
Is it not there?
Well, doesn't look like. I've got some pink dividers that have been put in, but there's nothing written on them to indicate this is supposed to represent.
My apologies, Chair. I'll see to that personally
so,
after the adjournment.
Yes, and there are 2 of them and not 3, so I don't know.
If you would go to page 380 of SSA 1.
Yes, I'm there.
That is Annexure M4. It's a letter addressed to the Director General SSA dated 20 July 2015. It's been declassified. And it's a letter whose purpose is to renew and fund a cover project and payment of related expenses for Project Maibuye. Do you see that?
Yes.
You would just bear with me for a moment, Chair. And paragraph 2.4 on page 381 reads, Project Simunya was intended to intensify and strengthen state authority within the judiciary system, under which contact and relevant assets were to be acquired, utilized for the purpose of positive influencing state power and control of the judiciary. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
So that, in writing, is the motivation for the renewal and funding of cover project under Project Maibuye in that letter dated 20 July 2015.
Yes.
In case it makes any difference, Mr. Pretorius, where you said control of the judiciary, it says control over the judiciary.
Control over the judiciary,
Yeah,
yes.
in the letter.
My apologies, Chair.
Yeah.
That statement that the project was intended to influence state power and exercise control over the judiciary, is that consistent with your knowledge of what you were told about Project Justice, which later was instituted?
No, not verbally. We were not told that. We just discovered it in the submissions, the documentation.
Right.
Can I just get clarity?
Yes.
This might assist me to follow. So there's documents that were given to us as annexures referencing to these particular paragraphs, and as Chair has been following evidence, it implicates my client. Then they were given to us as declassified annexures to be used in particular for this notice 33 in respect of my client. I just want to check with the counsel for the commission, because I have annexure M, and I thought he was referring to, and then he was referring to M4, but to me it was just MM, marked as M. Maybe I'm just confusing, and I don't have M4, or it was not intended to be given to me. And if I may complete, M refers, annexes something different. Just for clarity,
Yes,
so
no,
I don't confuse.
this letter is annexure M4 according to what's written here, and it is a letter dated 20 July 2015. It has got state security letterheads. And does that indicate it's the same thing that you have or not?
No, Chair. Hence, I'm trying to clarify.
Are you at page 380?
No. Chair will remember that we don't have the bundle as you are guiding.
Or you were only given...
We would have been given extracts of certain things and in between. So now, hence I'm also looking at this annexure.
Okay.
Because these annexures were given to me in an attempt to reference to certain notice that was given.
Okay.
So that's why I'm trying to follow.
Okay, Mr. Pretorius can address that.
Well, I don't have sight of precisely at this stage what was given. In fact, I can arrange to have one of the members of the legal team speak to counsel in due course, deal with it.
Yes. And,
I'm in no position to answer the question.
yes. Well, I don't know what the guiding principles were in terms of who was given what, but maybe since it's declassified, maybe if one of your team members has got a spare copy, they could give it to
Yes. No,
Yes.
no problem with that.
Yeah.
Without really disrupting, I know my little colleague yesterday said he will only progress when the right is not disturbing him. I had no intention waking up this morning to distract. However,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with a headache because, and you can imagine me having a headache with this big head.
No. You have what you have raised seems to be a legitimate issue. So
Yes.
you don't,
So I've always been, Chair, with the direction of the Chair, been told that no, we will talk. Please talk to the team.
Yes.
But I think this is a pervasive of an injustice, if I may use those words.
yes.
Because I'm not really following, and these are disclassified information that were intended to be given to me.
Yes.
If we are to then continue under that vein, I will always be left in the dark, and I will always intervene as if I'm being disruptive to the proceedings.
Yeah, no. It's important that if there is something that relates to your client, you should have it. Mr. Pretorius,
Chair, the one option would be to hand the whole bundle over to my learned friend, but I
Yes.
don't want to do it at this stage until it's placed on record and until I'm convinced or satisfied that all the necessary redactions have been made. And I'm
Okay.
not satisfied on that score at the moment. We've been told by the legal representatives of the SSA that we may put this whole file before the witnesses, but there are still aspects about which I'm not satisfied, and ultimately we take the responsibility, not the SSA, for what we place before you. So there are a number of issues arising, and I'm still coming across them, that require further redactions as a precaution, and that is being done. Once that is being done, then we can hand the whole file over to my learned friend.
well, the concern which he raises, and I think it is legitimate, is that he's sitting there, but it's no use him sitting there if he can't follow the evidence because he doesn't have certain documents. That's the concern. Should I adjourn for 10 minutes to see?
Well, Chair, Save, let me put it this way. Where a statement implicates a person directly or perhaps even indirectly, that information is placed before the person by way of 3-3 notice. To say that everything that a witness says in relation to a particular project must also be placed is a task which is just not capable of reasonable execution. If a problem is raised, however, we can meet that problem, and I'm happy to do so. So what we can do on your suggestion is give that document, which has been declassified, to my learned friend, and he can read it and follow the evidence.
Yes, but the question is whether it can be given to him immediately.
Yes, it can.
Okay, so that will be given to him then.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay,
But maybe my learned colleague is misunderstanding my argument.
Yes.
And I've not by any chance said that I should be given everything, and I'm quite aware how evidence is presented here.
Yeah.
What I am raising issue today of, and I've been consistent since Monday, is what has been disclosed to me purporting to be a particular document in reference to an annexure on a paragraph that has been disclosed to me. So these are documents that I'm already in possession, either when they were given with a 3-3 or as they were declassified progressively to me and disclosed. Now, I'm sitting with a document here that refers to M.
Yeah.
And in reference to a particular paragraph that now is tendering evidence.
But don't repeat the point. You have made the point.
Thank you, Chair.
You have made the point, yeah. They will give you a copy of the document.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, all right. Let's proceed.
Let's go to the document referred to in paragraph 6.29, please.
Yes.
It's annexure M15.
Were you done with the document at page 380?
Yes, Chair.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
page,
I'm at M15.
what page is M15?
Yes, 6.29. I'm just getting the page. Page 453. If you go to page 454, a description of Project Maibuye and particularly Project Justice and Operation Cece, Operation Justice and Operation Cece is dealt with. Would you go there, please? It's subparagraph
Yes.
A of 2.4.
Yes.
It reads, achievements. That should be placed in context. Let me take a step back of the purpose of the communication dated 31 May 2016, a declassified document addressed to the Director General of SSA. It's headed Request for Authorization, Renewal of Cover Project Maibuye and Payment of Expenditure related to Project Maibuye from 1 April 2016 to 31 March 2017. And you've told the Chair that Operation Justice was part of Project Maibuye.
Yes.
You look at the following page 454, para 2.4 sub A, it's headed Achievements. Amongst other operation through Project Maibuye, Chief Directorate Special Operations managed to gain access and interaction with the Justice brackets Ops Justice close brackets system through what was becoming an alarming concern over the friction that existed between the state and the justice fertility. That should read Justice Fraternity. And I presume the pun was unintended. In the same breath, CDSO contributed largely to the rise in confidence in the justice by the public through its influential role in the media, reporting, utilizing well-placed media personnel. Operation Cece is another of such success. Here, the project aimed at stabilizing the nature public protest by the group in Cape Town, but also ensure that the nature of protests do not undermine the integrity of the state, nor do they cause a negative impression to investors. Currently, the influence of the CDSO operations has forced the organization to adopt a much more moderate approach in its form of protest. We'll come to that in due course, but do you confirm that that extract that I've just read to you is contained in an official declassified SSA document?
Yes, I can confirm that.
But go to paragraph 8.30, please. Sorry, 6.30. It It reads, amounts of between 1.2 million rand and 4.5 million rand were regularly taken from the SSA and allegedly hand-delivered to Minister Mahlobo, who was reported to be the person directly making onward payments as part of Operation Justice. One of the implicated individuals confirmed that she had personally delivered 4.5 million rand to Minister Mahlobo's office on at least 3 occasions. What do you say about that paragraph?
I can confirm that that was what was said.
Said to the investigation team during the course of its investigations?
Yes, also in writing from the implicated individual.
Right. Paragraph 6.31 reads, Mr. Frank, pseudonym, confirmed to the investigation team that he was instructed to deliver money regularly to Minister Mahlobo for Project Justice, starting at 1.3 million rand, but extending upward to 21.8 million rand. He asserted that he was not aware of the details of Operation Justice beyond the general context that, quote, there was a complaint that the judges were colluding to overthrow the government, so an operation was established, unquote. And his deliveries of cash to the minister's office were, quote, to deal with the issue of judges, unquote. Was that information given to the VESA investigation as part of its investigation?
Yes, we had it was through an interview with Frank.
Right. And then paragraph 6.32, needless to say, the very existence and stated purpose of Operation Justice, irrespective of whether it was indeed implemented, constitutes a fundamental breach of the separation of powers and an unconstitutional attempt to compromise the independence of the judiciary. What do you say about that statement?
I agree with that statement fully.
DG Jafta gave evidence that the investigations were ongoing. Do you know of that?
Pardon?
Director General Jafta, or Acting Director General Jafta, gave evidence this week
Yes.
that the investigations into Operation Justice were continuing. Is that correct? Can you confirm that as part of the investigation team?
The investigation is ongoing. However, I think I'll have to postpone my response to this and include that in my statement.
Yes, thank you for that caution.
Yeah.
Let's go on then to deal with Operation Lock. If you could just bear with me a moment, please. There's another document that I would wish to show you in relation to Operation Justice. We're just looking for it, but let's move on to paragraph 8.33, Operation Lock. 6.33. Operation Lock, says the paragraph, involved the provision of a safe house and protection to Mr. Eugene de Kock after he was released from prison, apparently on the basis of a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Correctional Services. Lily, pseudonym, indicated that Operation Lock was allocated around 100,000 to 200,000 rand per month, which included the lease of a safe house, living expenses, and a salary of around 40,000 rand to Mr. de Kock, for which he signed acknowledgement receipts. Did you come to be told that during the course of your investigation?
No, sir.
How did you establish that, or how was that established? Do you know, or can you confirm this at all?
I can confirm that I saw her affidavit that was dating this. No, I think it was in a report that was written by the previous project manager of Momentum. So I am not certain of this because I didn't have an opportunity to send questions to Lily or interview Lily because she had left the organization.
All right. Being an internal investigation, was the VESA investigation limited to inquiries and information obtained from within the organization?
It was in terms of people that were implicated. However, it was also possible for us to request information from other law enforcement agencies. For instance, when we try to do lifestyle audits, we would involve the FIC. So, but mostly, the investigation team didn't have powers to be going beyond the people that remained members of SSA, unless we went through maybe the ministry or something. So that's one of the hurdles.
Thank you. If you just bear with me a moment. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I don't know if I should add what we tried to do in terms of Lily. DG wrote a letter to her current employer to indicate that there is this issue and can he be alerted, but we never got a response. That was a year ago. And then what we could do is just to include her in the list of implicated individuals in the A1 statement that was submitted to the DPCI.
Thank you. If you look then at paragraph 6.34, can you
Yes, sir.
comment on paragraph 6.34, still under Operation Lock? Can you make any comment in relation to the contents of that paragraph?
I can only make comments in relation to the last part, the latter part. Frank informed the investigation team because that's when we had the interview. The other part I cannot, but I have to underline that Mr. Y and I have different responsibilities and access to information. So because of his position, he would have had more information on some of these operations compared to what we had, because what we had was basically, we were relying on the documents that we found and how a person responds to written questions or verbal questions.
Right. Well, as a precaution, and because certain names are mentioned there, let's just move on to Operation Cece. Can we do that? Paragraph 6.35. Paragraph 6.35 reads as follows: Operation Cece was purportedly aimed at stabilizing the nature of public protest by a Cape Town-based group of homeless activists who demonstrated and spilled human waste on the streets and at national key points, such as Cape Town International Airport. The cause of concern for the CDSO was that the nature of these projects could undermine the integrity of the state and create a negative impression to investors. In the request for the renewal of Project Maibuye, Operation Cece was singled out along with Operation Justice for its achievements. This submission is included in File 2 of SSA Bundle and is marked Annexure M15. we've put on record some of that document. We needn't go any further. We can go to paragraph 6.36, but before we do so, do you have any comment on what the investigation discovered in relation to the matters set out in paragraph 6.35?
Let me just say paragraph 6.35 and paragraph 6.36 up to 6.36.3. I cannot comment on those because I don't have direct knowledge of that information.
Well, in paragraph 6.36, it refers to interviews with former members of the CDSO outlined their activities under Operation Cece Corner as covering the following. And then there are
I will need to object. It cannot be correct, my learned colleague, what he's attempting to do. The witness becomes specific. And we must cautiously remember that this witness...
Sorry, please start afresh.
Okay, I must object to what my learned colleague is trying to and attempting to do, more especially in particular to this paragraph. This witness becomes very specific and direct my learned colleague can say 6.3, 5 and 3.6. I cannot comment because I was not direct. I don't even have personal information. More so, she has filed almost a disclaimer again before that and said, remember, me and Mr. Y are not premised in the same, or we are not vested with the same powers. He might have had more information than I have. And we must also cautiously tread with the evidence because she is supposed to be a confirmatory affidavit, if one can use particularly those ways.
Well,
now,
hang on. Just remind me what the question is to which you are objecting.
Well, I haven't finished my question, Chair, so my learned friend doesn't know what I'm going to ask.
Yes.
Really, this is really unacceptable, Chair, to be interrupted in the middle of the question.
Why don't you let him finish the question, then we can address your concern if you do have any properly.
Chair, hence I stood and said cautiously before I attempted to address you. Chair, it could not be correct that you will want to attempt to read a paragraph.
Yes, but I don't know what he wants to say.
I'm not going to read the paragraph.
Yes.
You know, Chair, it's really interesting. I'm talking now.
Yeah.
I was saying.
No, Chair, I'm sorry that I must draw the line somewhere. There have been continual attempts to interfere with the leading of evidence and the presentation of evidence throughout the last few days. It is really objectionable when a colleague, a professional colleague, gets up to interrupt a question before the question is finished. He does not know what question I'm going to ask. I respect and I know what the witness has said, and I'm not attempting to undermine that at all. My question is directed at an entirely different object and would render quite unnecessary the quite uncalled for and rude interruption by my learned friend.
Chair, I've avoided to get into a battle with my learned colleague on personalities. And with respect, Chair, I was not rude about this issue. Let me tell you what indications gave me, because he was saying to the witness.
Yes,
Can I just finish?
No, let's not proceed. You have withdrawn the objection.
Okay.
He has
maybe on that basis.
Mr. Pretoria has made his points. Let him continue.
In paragraph 6.36, there is mention of interviews with former members of the CDSO. Do you know who conducted these interviews?
These interviews were conducted by investigators who are part of the team, of the Project Vesa team.
Right, and I take it from your previous answers that you were not one of those investigators.
No, I was not present. And I think if you check 6.37, it does say a feedback report was provided on the operations undertaken. So all of that from 6.35, 3.6, 6.36, and all of that is under SES corner, and whatever happened up to up to 6.36.3. We don't have first-hand and confirmed information on that, except that report that they compiled. Unfortunately, when there's no sworn statement, I can't say that I can confirm what is expressed here.
Report in 6.37, to the extent that it deals with further activities and the above activities, we are attempting to obtain. Annexure O is not in the bundle, and it should read Annexure N, I'm instructed, not Annexure O. Chair.
Okay.
Right. Let's then move on, if we may. Chair, if I was a little harsh and direct to my learned friend, I apologize.
Apology accepted.
Thank you.
So we are now best of friends once more, best of colleagues.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As we should be, Chair.
No, that's true. That's
As colleagues, we should never raise our voices
Yeah.
against one another, and I apologize.
Yeah.
Project Hollywood is dealt with in paragraph 6.38. Project Hollywood,
Yes.
are you able to comment on this?
Yes, I am able to comment on it.
All right, let's just deal with it. Project
Yeah.
Hollywood was established on 16 November 2015 to commence in April 2016, renewable every 3 months. This submission for the establishment of Project Hollywood is included as Annexure HO. We'll get there if we need to. The stated objective of the project was conducting surveillance and monitoring, and involved the illegal interception of high-profile, politically prominent or connected individuals and government officials. Monthly withdrawals of 800,000 Rand cash were made to pay, and there's the name of a company, which I don't want to put on record as yet, purportedly for the provision of intelligence and security services, including the remuneration of operatives, surveillance platform setting, and encrypted communication hire. These invoices are reflected in the index to Project Hollywood contained in file 3. What do you say about the contents of that paragraph? And let's not mention the company for the present.
It's accurate.
6.39 goes on to say, however, the details provided by the service provider were found to be fictitious, and no evidence of a contract between that company and the SSA could be found in the course of our investigations. In any event, this arrangement, irrespective of whether the purported services were in fact rendered, constitutes an unlawful outsourcing of the SSA counterintelligence mandate in the creation of a parallel intelligence network. Do you have any comment to make in that regard?
Just on the first sentence where it says, it's the details provided by the service provider. I don't think we could say provided by them. We could just say details contained on the invoice of the service provider.
Yes, because apparently the service provider didn't exist. Or did the service provider exist?
It doesn't exist. We checked. So there's no way they could, maybe they provided, I don't know, but they don't exist according to our records.
Right.
So apart from that, I agree with everything that is in there.
All right. it is a bit of a contradiction to
And I
say
also,
that the service provider didn't exist and yet to refer to details provided by the service provider. But for the moment, let's leave the name be.
no, that's why I was saying details are not that were on the invoice that
I
we
see.
saw.
That purported to come from a service provider.
Yes, from that service provider.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to communicate.
Thank you. All right, let's move on then to Project Lungisa, paragraph 6.40. Similar to Project Hollywood, Project Lungisa was established on 29 December 2015, renewable every 3 months. The submission for the establishment of Project Lungisa is included in File 3 of the SSA bundle, as is marked as Annexure LO. The stated objective of the project was to neutralize and counter activities of individuals intent on undermining the authorities. Monthly withdrawals of 500,000 Rand cash were used to pay an entity called well, let's leave them out for the moment, purportedly for the provision of economic services, including data collection and analysis, the collection of financial statements from banks, company and ownership analysis, the interviewing of assets and compiling of reports. Is there anything wrong with the stated object of that project?
There's nothing wrong if it's done by SSA. You can't outsource that. Just collecting financial statements from banks and company ownership analysis, that can be done internally. Compiling reports, and so those services is not something that we needed to outsource.
What is the interviewing of assets? What does that refer to?
Assets, where is this?
That is on paragraph 6.40, last sentence or second line from the bottom. It's part of what
Assets,
that company
assets
said
could
to.
be-
Hang on, Ms. K, don't speak while I'm speaking.
Sorry?
It's part of what that paragraph says the company mentioned there was paid for doing. So I'm asking, what does that refer to? Interviewing of assets. I have to
I
ask
assume-
because you said there was nothing wrong with what they were doing, but SSA could do the same. So maybe you know what it is.
Assets could be sources.
No, I know what
whatever.
assets are. I want to find out what are they talking about when I say interviewing of assets, unless the word assets
I don't know, but-
has a particular meaning within SSA. You don't know what this refers to.
Could it
I
mean
don't know, because, let me say I don't know what they are referring to, but what is reflected here is exactly what is reflected on the invoices. So it's taken verbatim from the invoices.
presumably assets there would mean people capable of being interviewed who might provide useful information. Am I correct or not?
That's what I concluded was
Right.
meant.
We can't be talking about fixed assets because although strange
No.
things happen in security, that clearly would not happen.
Well, we have to remain alive to a situation where what some of these entities might have been paid for was doing things that nobody can explain. So we need to understand exactly what it is that they were paid
Yes,
to
Chair.
do with taxpayers' money and whether it's something intelligible.
Do you have any comment following what the Chair has just said, Ms. Kay?
No, I have no comments.
Paragraph 6.41 reads, however, as in the case of Project Hollywood, the details provided by this service provider appear to be factitious, and no evidence of a contract between SSA and the service provider has been established so far. In addition, there is no correlation between the stated objectives of Project Lungisa as per its approved submission and the services that were purportedly provided. In any event, these purported services constitute an unlawful outsourcing of the SSA's mandate and duplicate the services of the Financial Intelligence Center. Do you have any comment in that regard?
I agree with the paragraph.
Paragraph 6.42 says the key persons implicated in both Project Hollywood and Project Lungisa are Ambassador Lomo as Deputy Director Counterintelligence, Daryl, Lily, and Mandy, all pseudonyms. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Chair, I just need to consult briefly about the next section, if you would bear with me a minute.
Yeah.
Let's move on, Ms. Kay, to paragraph 6.43, where the statement deals with Project Accurate / Kusela. Reads, Project Kusela was a CDSO project run by Dr. Mandisa Mokoena, a non-SSA member, but its activities overlapped with those of the toxicology unit established in 2012 as part of the Directorate for Presidential Security Support. That project was approved on 30 April 2015, and the reference in the documentation is there. Goes on to read, the Project Kusela was purportedly established to substitute Project Accurate with the 2013 Project Accurate operational plan without a budget, being relied on to obtain approval for the establishment of Project Kusela in April 2015. The SSA's operational directives do not permit substitution, but in any event, Project Accurate continued to run parallel to Project Kusela. What do you have to say, if anything, Ms. Kay, about paragraph 6.43 and 6.44?
I confirm both
Right.
paragraphs.
You confirm the contents of that paragraph. Is that correct? The truth of the
Yes.
contents. Paragraph 6.45, the irregularities extended to the monthly payments of 1.8 million rand for Project Kusela as, in certain instances, submissions of Project Maibuye were attached as the basis for the withdrawals. These withdrawals listed to Project Kusela included 2 invoices totaling 9.5 million rand from a company. These invoices are reflected in the index to Project Kusela. Is that correct? I'm not sure I understand it totally. Perhaps you could explain.
Yes, it is correct,
Right.
Chair.
Is it just the incorrect allocation of expenditure between projects?
Yes, one cannot claim money withdraw money for one project when they're using a submission for a different project.
All right, let's move on.
So a project Kusela submission, if there's a submission to withdraw 1.8 million, what is attached in terms of the operational plan, it can't be a project Maibuye operational plan. So that's what is meant in general.
.46 reads, the stated objectives of Project Kusela also differed from submission to submission, ranging from bioterrorism threats and threats to economic security to subversive acts and sabotage directed at strategic installations and national key points. Whatever the difference, I take it no one can take issue with those objectives.
Yeah.
Goes on to say these,
Yes.
Yes, thank you. These discrepancies are borne out in the accounts of those involved in the project. The following sentence perhaps is important. It reads, Dr. Mokoena has stated under oath that all intelligence products were submitted directly to President Zuma, such that it cannot be confirmed whether the content of the professed intelligence projects met the differing objectives of the project. Moreover, this direct reporting line operated outside the formal SSA intelligence clearance channels, thus constituting a parallel information management process. Do you have any comment on those observations?
Yes, I'd like to just confirm that I have seen these, the affidavits that she deposed to. So I agree with what is reflected there and the conclusion drawn.
Right, and 6.47 repeats what we've dealt with earlier, particularly in relation to the failure of the toxicology unit and the operational expenditure of Project Kusela and its implementation failing to detect the alleged poisoning of the former president. Those remarks are made in that paragraph. Do you agree with him?
Yes, I do.
Paragraph 6.8 deals with Project Tin Roof. You will be aware of the evidence that is given in this regard. It involves the provision of a safe house and monies, maintenance monies, to the wife Mantuli of the former President Zuma. I'm not sure that there's anything here that requires repetition, save to confirm what was said by Acting Director General Jafta in the last two sentences of paragraph 6.48, where it reads, in light of Mantuli's recent media interview, she describes this period as a detention where none of her constitutional rights were observed or respected. The so-called, quote, protection, unquote, desisted when Mantuli sought the intervention of her legal counsel. Can you confirm that?
Yes, I can confirm that, I guess. There's nothing that I can change about that.
Right, and prior to that, perhaps we should put the whole paragraph on record so that we don't omit anything. The paragraph begins as follows. Project Tin Roof related to an investigation into the alleged poisoning of former President Zuma by his wife, Ma Ntuli. According to media reports, the diagnosis of former President Zuma's poisoning occurred during his trip to the United States in August 2014 and was subsequently confirmed in a foreign country. The name of the country has been deleted. Project Tin Roof was established in December 2014 at the instance of former Minister Mahlobo, who had Ma Ntuli removed from Nkandla as a suspect and given, quote, protection and maintenance, unquote, by the SSA until the investigation was finalized. And then the passages that we referred to earlier follow, including the passage that says that protection desisted when Ma Ntuli sought the intervention of her own legal counsel. Do you have knowledge of those allegations as part of the investigations?
In terms of the investigation, we actually interviewed the project leader of this, and what maybe I could add, because I don't want to refer to media reports, and I don't want to qualify media reports. What I know for sure is that the person involved in the project indicated that they were just called to Nkandla by Mr. Thulani Dlomo. So, and then they were involved in this project. But I did put the question to the person whether the intention of keeping Ntuli in the different safe houses. It wasn't just one, because we incurred a lot of costs because of the moving around and VIP protection. I asked whether that was was she under protection or had she been detained? And I could say that she ended up almost, although not verbatim and coming out clearly, that the person was detained. But when the facts were put to her, in terms of the conditions, it seemed, I don't know whether she didn't outright say, yes, she was detained. But did admit that Ntuli was kept in different safe houses, and there was the case. There was no forensic. Forensics was not involved in the investigation. It was various SSA members involved, and that's all I can say on this. But what is there in terms of seeking legal counsel and former Minister Mahlobo doing, I cannot comment on that one.
Right. Well, let's just highlight a few aspects of the project that perhaps raise concern. The first is in paragraph 6.49. The Project Tin Roof team entailed approximately 40 persons drawn from different directorates within the SSA as well as externally in the following fields: administration, investigations, vetting, polygraph testing, surveillance, counter-espionage, toxicology, and physical security. Do you know of that?
Yes, that's what we were told by the individual involved.
It is alleged that investigations were conducted and some arrests were even effected, but the main perpetrator is alleged to have fled the country. Do you know, is that what you were told?
Yes.
But you do note that the investigation team has not found any SSA documentary evidence supporting these assertions. Is that also correct?
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
You do say in paragraph, sorry, you don't say. It is said in paragraph 6.50 by Mr. Y, like the establishment of the toxicology unit, Project Tin Roof entailed an overreach of the SSA's duly authorized mandate. Do you have any comment to make on that statement?
Yes, I agree with that statement.
Let's move on to paragraph 6.51, which reads, monthly withdrawals of approximately 800,000 rand were made under Project Tin Roof. Operational expenditure, including the leasing and maintenance of safe houses, the provision of security service and leasing of high-end motor vehicles for surveillance. Is that what you discovered or were told?
Yeah, yes, that's what we were told by the person who was involved.
Goes on to read, that's the paragraph 6.51, internally, Felicity and Lily appear to have used Project Tin Roof as a front for renting further safe houses, hiring VIP protectors and conducting renovations and maintenance on the leased properties. Preliminary investigations and simple profiling have revealed irregularities with the registration numbers provided on invoices, including PSIRA registration numbers in the case of security companies, suggesting that payments were made to fictitious entities. Do you have any knowledge of that aspect of the investigations?
Yes, we did the analysis of all of those, the invoices. So I can confirm that.
Right. And then paragraph 6.25 and following deal with Project Academia. Again, evidence has been given in this regard. Paragraph 6.52 reads, in 2015, Murray, pseudonym, a former SSA member, was recruited by Minister Mhlobo to mitigate and resolve the fees must fall protests which had erupted across universities in South Africa. The immediate aim of Project Academia was to neutralize the fees must fall protests, but the mandate extended to developing short-term mitigation strategies and long-term solutions to prevent the recurrence of these protests. Do you have any comment to make in that regard?
No, I don't have any comment.
Do you know if that was... I'm sorry.
Pardon?
When you say you don't have any comment, do you confirm that that's what the investigation learnt? Or are you saying you don't have any knowledge of it?
I don't want to comment on this project because it's going to lead me to actually end up testifying more on things that should be in my statement.
Right,
so I can confirm to a certain extent these issues, but I feel that it's not extensive. It's not sufficient to actually describe this project.
All right, you say that, as I understand that while you could confirm what is said here, it's not useful because the full extent of the project could only be presented to the Commission on full evidence. Do I understand you correctly?
Yes, which we have collated and collected.
All right.
So that's a separate, yeah, so I would rather not cover that project.
All right. Let's leave it then to a later statement on for a later stage. But as I understand it, the basis for the issues you now raise is not that you don't know anything about the project, but you know more than what is here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think then it is fair to ask you what of these two paragraphs you can confirm. I'm not going to direct you to any particular paragraph. What facts can you confirm here? If you feel that you cannot confirm them without being misleading, then you please tell me, and we won't go any further.
I request that I don't get into the detail and comment.
All right. Let's go.
I will give a full account in a separate statement.
Fine, thank you for that offer. Let's go on then to paragraph 6.54, Operation eThekwini. Are you able to comment on these two paragraphs under this heading?
No, I cannot comment on it. It's the same situation. It was contained in the same report that the investigators compiled, as I indicated under says corner or something. So it's the same situation where I don't have the actual documentation, and the team did not really get statements from these people as much as they have met with them. So I don't want to, I can't confirm nor deny, but I can say this was contained in an investigative feedback report.
The information contained in paragraph 6.54 and 6.55, are you saying that that is contained in a report, but you haven't seen that? Have you seen that report?
Yes, it was submitted to me.
But then I don't understand why you can't testify to. You've testified throughout to reports that you have received. What is different about this?
What's different is that on this one, we don't have, I was not present in that interview. We have not transcribed the interview as much as it was, although it was recorded because of capacity issues. Thirdly, we didn't get sworn affidavits. And fourthly, I didn't see any documentary evidence of what is alleged in this. So that's why I would opt not to confirm or deny something that I don't know, because a report from the investigators, from what some people said to them, I cannot vouch for it.
Right.
If it's not supported and corroborated by through other means.
Are you saying that all the evidence that you have placed before the chair qualifies under all those conditions that you've just enumerated, and this one doesn't?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. On everything that I can speak on with authority, those projects, we actually went through the documentation, and that's why we can say, refer to whatever annexure. So I would rather support things that I have seen in evidence and not just rumors, especially because sometimes the same people you can't trace when you want them to comment.
So the reports referred to in 6.54 and 6.55, are they in possession of members of the investigation team, the VESA investigation team?
Yes, they are members of the investigation team.
And those members of the investigation team or other members, would they have interviewed the persons who gave the report or the reports?
Please repeat that, sir.
You've told us that there have been reports about the matters in 6.54 and 6.55 made to members of the investigation team, correct? You have seen those reports, am I correct, but you don't have corroborating evidence?
Yes, it's only one report, and it contains the various projects that you were talking about.
What I want to understand to assist our investigators in relation to this matter is whether you know that interviews have been conducted in relation to these matters.
Yes.
They have.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on then to Project WAVE.
Yes, sir.
Paragraph 6.56 reads, as noted earlier, Project WAVE was established at the same time as Project Construsawa and Project Maibuye in January 2015, and was based on the same template written by Frank and approved by the same individuals. We know that, and we've dealt with that.
Yes.
Paragraph 66.57 reads, the stated aim of Project WAVE was to penetrate an established operational ground within identified continental, regional, and global territories, utilizing deep cover members, with an intended commencement date of 1 March 2015. However, Frank explained in his interview with our investigation team that this initial plan bore no resemblance to the activities later carried out under Project WAVE, which related to the media. Are you able to comment on that?
Yes, we conducted the interview, and that's what he indicated. So I can confirm that.
Right.
First, we are a few minutes of 4. Let's talk about the way forward. I can still sit longer, maybe up to 5.
Chair, we have 3 witnesses potentially to come for this week.
Yes.
But it appears that there's some more work to be done, whether it's by way of affidavit or otherwise arising out of questions and answers today at least.
Yes.
The issues related to tomorrow's evidence that we had planned, a particular witness, 3 threes were sent out and on the face of it were not received. And that was an issue I raised this morning for clarification. I personally haven't yet received that clarification. But if that witness was to be called tomorrow, it would require his affidavit or his evidence to be truncated, which is not really desirable. The other 2 witnesses would require applications to be placed before you for protected identity evidence, which we would submit would be dealt with in accordance with the way they've been dealt with before, but they haven't yet been done. We are at page 45 of 77 pages. Although it will go quicker tomorrow, I would respectfully suggest that we adjourn and conclude the evidence of this witness tomorrow. But if you wish, we can continue and arrange for a witness to come tomorrow on the reduced basis.
Yes, well, obviously we want to use as much time as possible, and if it means going beyond 4 o'clock, beyond 5 o'clock, we want to do that, but there's no point in doing that if tomorrow is unlikely or will end up not being used fully because certain issues haven't been sorted out with the next witness, about the next witness.
Yes,
so if it looks like there's no purpose to be served by sitting longer today, then we may as well.
Yes, Chair. And I think we're at the stage of the day, and particularly the stage of the week, that I don't want to bite the head off any of my colleagues.
Subject to certain matters, there may be a possibility from my side to sit for some hours on Saturday if we need to use Saturdays. And going forward, I am of the view that there may be quite a few Saturdays that we might use because we are trying to use as much time as possible. But obviously, sometimes planning for using a Saturday needs a little bit more time. But I'm mentioning that so that you can take that into your account as you plan.
Thank you, Chair. That may assist us after a certain interval to wrap up on as expeditious a basis, whatever evidence we have left in this stream.
Yes. Okay, I think we'll then adjourn now because it looks like tomorrow the witness can continue without us having to have a problem that there are two witnesses who are ready. Okay, we are going to adjourn for the day, and we will start normal time tomorrow at 10.
10, thanks.
We adjourn.